In a family where trust seemed unshakable, a simple piece of jewelry would shatter everything. Sophia had always been the quiet, dependable daughter, never causing a stir. But everything changed the moment a precious family heirloom went missing, the diamond necklace that had been passed down through generations. Her younger sister Lena pointed the finger at her without hesitation. In a world where loyalty was meant to be sacred, Sophia found herself standing alone, accused of a crime she didn't commit. Why would her own sister betray her so cruelly? And how could Sophia, whose name was sullied by suspicion, find the strength to clear it? As the walls closed in around her, one question haunted her. Could the truth survive in a family where lies had begun to take root? Sophia stood still before the door that had just closed behind her. No one looked back. No words of pleading. She had just been thrown out by her own family, the same family for whom she had quietly shouldered every expense from utilities to her younger brother's school fees, even the monthly living costs. Just a few hours earlier, the sound of laughter had filled the living room. It was Lena's 17th birthday party, Sophia's younger sister. The sparkling lights, the three-tiered cake, the guests in fancy clothes, and the piles of gifts stacked high. Everything had been meticulously planned by their mother to give Lena a memorable day. But no one remembered that it was Sophia who had transferred the money to organize the party, using her own month-end paycheck. For many years since their father passed away early and their mother's business was unstable, Sophia, the eldest daughter, had quietly taken on the responsibility of covering all household expenses. She never complained. She just did it, simply because she loved her family. She wanted her two younger siblings to receive a proper education. She wanted her mother to worry less. And she thought that if she worked a little harder, everything would be fine. But she was wrong. That evening, everything fell apart so quickly that no one had time to grasp what was happening. After Lena opened her gifts, the family discovered that the expensive necklace, a gift from their aunt abroad, was missing. No one had touched it except Sophia, who had been asked by their mother to keep it safe earlier that morning. "Where did you put it?" Lena asked, her gaze already clouded with suspicion. "In Mom's drawer, I locked it," Sophia replied, still not understanding why everyone was looking at her as though she were a stranger. "I can't find it. A lock doesn't stop anyone from opening it," Lena said, her voice half mocking, half accusing. Their mother turned to look at Sophia. Her eyes were as cold as ice. "Do you know how valuable that necklace is?" she asked. "Do you really need money that badly?" The words struck like a knife. Sophia was stunned. She couldn't believe she had just heard that from her mother, the person she had always loved and worked so hard for. She tried to explain, but no one listened. Lena suddenly burst into tears, claiming that she had seen Sophia staring at the gift the day before, and that maybe she wanted to keep it to sell. All the evidence was vague, but the silence and the cold stares from her mother, her younger brother, and even those who had relied on her efforts. It was all over. "You should leave for a while," her mother said, as if sentencing her. Sophia didn't cry. She just stood up and walked to the door. No luggage, no money, no one to see her off. Only herself, and the pain too deep to name. Sophia wandered the streets that evening, her old shoes worn thin, offering no warmth against the chill of the early season's drizzle. The familiar streets suddenly seemed foreign, the streetlights reflecting off the wet pavement like the reflection of her own life. Lonely, drenched, and without a place to turn. She stopped at an empty bus stop. Her hands trembling, she clutched the small handbag, the only thing she had with her when she was thrown out. Inside was a near-empty wallet, a photo of the family when things were still happy, and a handkerchief Lena had given her last birthday, now a token of a betrayer. Sophia didn't know where to go. The friends she had once helped were all busy with their own lives. She didn't want to bother anyone. All that filled her mind was one thing: she had to stand firm. She had to survive, to prove she wasn't a thief. A few days later, Sophia managed to get a job washing dishes at a small restaurant on the outskirts of the city. Every morning she woke up at 5 a.m. to walk nearly an hour to work, and left when the streets were lit up with lights. The new life was harsh and lacking, But Sophia felt more at peace than in the days of suspicion and scrutiny in her own home. The owner of the restaurant, a middle-aged woman named Mrs. Dung, was strict at first, but gradually she saw the young girl's diligence and politeness. One day, when she found Sophia huddled sleeping in the corner of the kitchen, she gently placed her hand on the girl's shoulder and asked, "Do you have no home?" Sophia lowered her face, saying nothing, but her red eyes spoke volumes. From that day on, Mrs. Dung allowed her to sleep in the small storage room behind the restaurant. It was a cramped room, just big enough for a mat and a thin blanket. But for Sophia, it was a whole world, a place where she was not suspected, not turned away, where she could be herself without needing to explain. Every night after washing a towering pile of dishes, Sophia would take out a small notebook and write her clumsy journal entries. Not to lament, but to remember. Every step she had taken, every tear she had shed, and every time she wanted to give up, but still stood back up. She wrote, "One day the truth will be revealed, and if no one believes in me, then I will be the proof of it." Even though the whole world had turned its back on her, Sophia did not allow herself to lose faith in herself. One late afternoon, while she was wiping tables at the restaurant as usual, Sophia overheard a conversation between two guests sitting near the window. One of them, elegant in appearance with a calm voice, was complaining about how hard it was to find hard-working, honest people for a jewelry store that was about to open. Sophia looked up briefly, her hand frozen for a second. Jewelry. Just that word was like a sharp stab to her heart, reminding her of the necklace that had changed the course of her life. But then, as if something inside her urged her on, she walked over. Her hands clenched, her voice trembling yet determined. "Excuse me, I know it's wrong to eavesdrop, but if you're looking for someone to work, may I give it a try?" The woman looked her over, her wrinkled uniform, her tired eyes but filled with sincerity. After a moment of silence, she nodded slightly. "Tomorrow 9 a.m. at this address, 9 a.m. at Ga." The next day, Sophia arrived an hour early, despite the light rain and her old coat that offered little warmth. It was a small jewelry shop under renovation located on a quiet corner of the street. The woman from the day before, named Mrs. Huang, the shop owner, had prepared a few simple tasks to test her cleaning, organizing, and taking inventory. Sophia did everything carefully without a word of complaint. After 3 days of trial work, Mrs. Huang asked, "Why did you apply here? Aren't you afraid of bringing up old memories?" Sophia froze. She didn't expect that Mrs. Huang knew or had seen the hidden pain in her eyes. But instead of denying it, she answered, "I want to face it, not to justify myself, but to move on." It was the first time in months that she was looked at with trust. Mrs. Huang nodded slowly and officially hired her. From then on, Sophia's life began to change. She learned to differentiate between different types of gemstones, memorized product codes, kept sales records, and even how to interact with customers. Though she had never been professionally trained, she learned quickly, worked diligently, and remained absolutely honest. Every day at the jewelry shop brought her closer to a future she once thought she had lost. One weekend afternoon, while she was cleaning the display glass, Mrs. Huang suddenly said, "You know, when I first looked at you, I saw myself from many years ago. I too was misunderstood, starting over with nothing." Sophia looked up, moved. Perhaps wounds not only cause pain, they can also connect souls who have been hurt. Sophia thought she had truly shed the dark days. Her work at the jewelry shop not only provided her with a living, but also began to heal the emotional scars. Mrs. Huang grew to trust her, more entrusting her with managing high-value orders. Regular customers also grew fond of her, a gentle girl always smiling even though her eyes still carried a hint of sadness. But fate seemed unwilling to let go. One early afternoon, as Sophia was checking the stock ledger at the end of the day, the doorbell rang. She looked up and froze immediately. Lena, her younger sister, the one who had lived with her for years and pushed her into a deep pit with a cold lie, was now standing right in front of her, beautiful, elegantly dressed, accompanied by a strange man. Sophia panicked, her hands gripping the edge of the ledger so tightly they trembled. Lena was equally stunned, her eyes briefly flashing with panic, before quickly regaining her composure. "Are you working here?" Lena asked, her tone flat, as if nothing from the past had ever happened. "Yes," Sophia replied, her voice dry. She turned to Mrs. Huang, who was standing nearby, trying to keep her voice steady. "Excuse me, I'll step outside for a moment." She hurried to the back of the counter, but Lena followed. In the small courtyard behind, where a few potted plants were placed, they stood face to face for the first time in almost a year. "Why are you here?" Sophia asked, unable to hide the tremor in her voice. Lena bit her lip. After a long pause, she finally spoke. "I'm sorry." Just 3 words, seemingly light, but they pierced Sophia's heart like sharp needles. Sorry. After everything. After she lost her home, her honor, and her innocent youth. "I'm sorry, but you have to understand, I was scared. I didn't want our parents to blame me, and I didn't expect things to turn out like this." Sophia fell silent. A part of her wanted to scream, to ask how her sister could be so cruel. But another part, the part that had been forged through months of solitude, simply wanted to close everything off. "You're doing well now, aren't you?" Sophia asked softly. Lena nodded. "That's enough," Sophia said, turning and walking back inside. She didn't blame her, nor did she forgive her. She chose to let go. But from that day on, an unsettling feeling quietly returned. Lena now knew where she worked. The past could be dragged back at any moment. And then, the thing Sophia never expected happened. 2 days later, the police appeared at the store with a search warrant. A diamond from a shipment about to be sent out had suddenly disappeared. The diamond vanished, as though it had never existed. In the storage room, everything had been sealed tightly, and the cameras clearly recorded the process of receiving, dispatching, and shipping. Yet in the final box of the shipment where the diamond was supposed to be, there was only an empty, cold space. The police arrived early in the morning. A customer had reported the loss, and Sophia, who had signed off on the stock check, immediately became the prime suspect. This can't be," she exclaimed, stunned by the suspicious glances around her. Mrs. Huang tried to defend her, but the evidence was relentlessly against Sophia. A copy of the receipt, her signature, the cameras, everything confirmed that she was the one who handled the final step. Sophia felt as if she had fallen into an old nightmare. The atmosphere of interrogation, the questioning gazes, the cold voice of the investigator, all of it brought back painful memories from the past. But this time she knew she had to act differently. She couldn't remain silent, couldn't give up as she had before. She began to review every detail in her memory. Who had passed through the warehouse? Who could have accessed the box of items besides her? Then a fragment of memory surfaced. That afternoon, Lena had come by and had entered the warehouse under the guise of being a family member of an employee. No proof, no cameras capturing that moment, but her instincts told Sophia that it was her sister once again playing tricks. Lena is the only one who knew the temporary storage code that day, Sophia told Mrs. Huang when the two met privately that evening. "You can check the list of who scanned their cards to enter." Bit by bit, the truth started to unfold. Lena had asked to meet privately with Mrs. Huang earlier, claiming she wanted to apologize for the past, and then secretly used Sophia's name to access the storage area. With Mrs. Huang's help, Sophia requested a full investigation of the access data, cross-referencing fingerprints and entry cards. Within a few days, a small but significant piece of evidence appeared: Lena's fingerprints on the diamond box, a place she should never have touched. The police turned their investigation toward Lena. She adamantly denied it, but under the weight of the evidence, panic began to show in her demeanor. This time, Sophia didn't step back. She faced her sister directly in the interrogation room, her gaze no longer filled with resentment but with determination. "You stole from me once, and I stayed silent. But this time I will fight for justice, not for me, but for the truth." Her words closed a painful chapter, but they also opened the door to a new version of Sophia. Strong, brave, and no longer the quiet girl who used to endure. News of Lena's arrest for stealing the diamonds spread throughout the company, like a strong gust of wind blowing away all the rumors that had surrounded Sophia. Those who had once doubted, avoided, or even looked down on her now fell silent, their heads bowed. But Sophia didn't rejoice. She didn't want anyone's failure to prove her right. She just needed the truth. Mrs. Huang was the first to step forward and hug her like a mother. "I was wrong to let you suffer once more, but thank you for not giving up." Not long after, the board of directors held a public meeting. There, they officially apologized to Sophia for allowing an innocent employee to be subjected to suspicion. And more than that, they offered her the position of quality control manager, a role that no one had ever thought a girl like Sophia, who only knew how to keep her head down and work, could ever hold. The room erupted in applause that day. But in Sophia's heart, what mattered more was the peace she felt. No longer torn, no longer asking herself, "Am I worthy of trust?" Because now those who once doubted her were placing their full trust in her. A few weeks later, when everything had settled down, Sophia quietly visited Lena in the detention center. She didn't bring any words of reproach, nor did she carry an expression of victory. She was just a sister, standing before her blood-related sibling. Lena didn't speak at first, but as Sophia was about to turn and leave, her voice, rough and hoarse, finally spoke up. "Why are you still here, after everything?" Sophia turned back, her gaze gentle, yet resolute. "Because I never hated you, but I will never let you hurt others, or yourself, again." Those words were a form of forgiveness, not to erase the past, but to end a chain of tragedies that had gone on for too long. Time passed. Sophia continued her work in her new role, gaining increasing respect from her colleagues. She remained humble, simple, but she was no longer the girl who silently endured. She knew her worth, and she knew how to stand up for what was right. One late afternoon, she received an email from an international gem company. They had heard of her through the recent case and wanted to invite her to join an independent certification project abroad. It was a huge opportunity, not just for her career, but also a gateway to a future Sophia had never dared to imagine. She smiled, not because of fame or money, but because at last, after all these years, she had stepped out of the shadows. With unchanging kindness, with the truth restored, and with a strong, courageous heart, Sophia had rewritten her life story. From a girl falsely accused of being a thief, now she was the one entrusted with the most precious things. A person like that is the brightest diamond.